Next tonight, Laura Castañeda on Binacom, the organization of college communications instructors who cross international lines to exchange ideas and information. Now more than a decade after its founding, Binacom has evolved in more ways than one.
Mexico and the United States. Two countries so close their borders touch, yet their cultures remain so far.
I remember at UCSD when I was teaching a lot of upper division courses and got a lot of students to come to a Binacom in Tijuana, and many of them said, "Oh, there's a university in Tijuana?" And when you hear remarks like that, it's like, oh no, we have a lot of work that we need to do, because there's so little knowledge, particularly on the US side, of what goes on south of the border.
College professors on both sides of the international border in the field of communications decided it was time to do something to bridge that gap.
The idea of Binacom started with two professors who are no longer here, and myself, wondering how we could unite ourselves with our colleagues across the border. The countries may have politics, but the universities don't know borders.
The teachers created the first professional organization dedicated to teachers in the field of communications. They called it Binacom, or the Binational Association of School of Communication of California.
I first became involved in Binacom in the fall of 2000. I started teaching at the University of San Diego, and some of my colleagues here recommended that I become part of the organization because my research interest focuses on Spanish language media, specifically entertainment television in Mexico. So it was a great place for me to get involved and to network with other people interested in media, both in the United States and in Latin America.
But what could 8 universities and colleges from 2 opposite sides of the border have in common? With language barriers and cultural differences, how would they do what they're supposed to do best? Communicate.
Preliminary.
It's that home base thing. It's like you feel like if you really mess it up, you know, people might giggle, but they'll giggle in a way that makes you feel like you can fool around and you can fix it and you can try again and you don't have to go, oh, what an idiot, you know.
The walls came down. Instructors quickly learned they had just as many similarities as differences, and they had one common goal: helping their students.
In the case of students from Mexico, they have to take into consideration what is being done in other places. Sometimes we are limited by technology, especially in areas of multimedia. It will make them look for other ways and come up with other alternatives.
The organization is very much oriented towards the students and student success. And that the reason we were all coming together was to improve our level of instruction for the students on both sides of the border.
Es curioso cómo, a pesar de que hablamos diferentes idiomas,
even though we speak different languages and have different customs and cultures, we're talking about communication, and most of all, we have the students' interest in common. We have the same interest, characteristics, and objectives, which is to promote communications. In the end, it doesn't matter what university you come from.
Within a year of the group's first meeting, the teachers began hosting an annual 2-day communications conference.
Hopefully, the students have an opportunity to meet their colleagues, again, sometimes even from the same side of the border, but certainly from the other side of the border, and they get to see what kind of work is being done in a variety of fields.
The host school would rotate every year, giving students and teachers an opportunity to cross the border and spend time on the other side. Teachers encouraged their students to submit video projects for public screening. The idea was a hit.
Students consistently remind us that it hasn't all been done before, that there's a tremendous room for creativity and new ideas and new ways to use the medium that us old-timers hadn't thought of before.
Organizers named the 2-day festival the Encounter or Encuentro. and set out to attract big-name professionals in various fields of communication.
And I think that this is a pretty amazing collaboration that's lasted for this long, 13 or 14 years. It's an opportunity to get our students to cross the border, which is many of them don't do. You know, they can come and spend their whole 4 years at UCSD and never cross the border, or only cross the border, you know, to go to Calle Revolucion and go to a bar, which is not the same as actually crossing the border and going to a university and meeting students and so on. So for that, it's really valuable.
Part of the encounter, they decided, would be dedicated to screening student-produced films and documentaries.
To me, it's a lot of fun because you get to see what was in your head, and then finally when you watch it and show it to your family, and they see the work that you're doing, and so to me it's just exciting, so I love it.
Paul de Santiago, a student at City College and San Diego State University, submitted this short project entitled El Pastor.
The idea or the intent of the film was to create a film that was about the plight of people who sometimes don't feel like they fit in society, and that like the little boy didn't feel like he fit in because he was an orphan, and a lot of people who come to the United States sometimes feel out of place, and they go through emotions of like, do I really belong here? Where's my place? And so I kind of wanted to capture that in that short film.
The film took de Santiago nearly 6 months to complete. After seeing the reaction from the Binacom audience, Paul says no question about it, the time he invested was time well spent.
When you see it on screen, on a big screen, you forget about the sleepless nights or all the money you spent. So you're watching it and you forget about that. You watch it and say it was worth it.
Binacom's relationship with Latin America would change in the year 2000. For the first time ever, students from the United States and Tijuana would go beyond the international borders of Mexico. Their work would get a chance to be seen at the Cuban Film Festival in Havana.
It was very exciting. I mean, just to have the opportunity to have something seen, not only outside San Diego, but outside the United States in a foreign country, was just really exciting, idea.
Carlos Pelayo's short film titled Cruzando, or Crossing, was viewed by people from all over the world.
The films that come out of Latin America more often than not have very much a social or political edge to them, which I think is just great, because many times, unfortunately, I think in Hollywood, just more about entertainment, about entertaining the public, as opposed to really maybe educating or having some interesting ideas or stories.
Carlos says he was also surprised by Hollywood stars and directors who were there. He says, unlike Sundance, everyone seemed relaxed and approachable.
How many students, in the world get a chance to sit down and talk to Roman Polanski about film? And I think for me, that's something that I'm always going to carry with me, because I admire his work, and it was just an amazing experience.
Carlos's colleague Neil Kendricks, a graduate student at San Diego State, also had the opportunity to attend the film festival and experience Cuban cinema firsthand.
You will go and then you'll see these lines that stretch down the block, and it'll be for this sometimes a very obscure little film, but people have this curiosity of wanting to see what's being made in other parts of the world. So there's this sort of weird sort of irony there, that even though it's this communist country and we have these sort of perceptions or perhaps misperceptions of what it means to be Cuban and what it means to live there, one thing that's for certain is that they have very much an openness about the arts and about films. The people just love going to the movies.
Back in this region, last year the members of Binacom decided to experiment yet again, this time with the group's annual Encuentro on hiatus. The teachers sought out to produce a project like no other. They called for student volunteers from their prospective schools to collaborate on a joint documentary project.
Al inicio del proyecto Tendría que ser honesto, estaba un poco escéptico.
I have to be honest, I was skeptical. The project was very ambitious, but when we saw the final result, it was worth it. And more importantly, we realized what was possible. The students didn't know each other, and yet the project was really good quality. It's incredible what video can do in terms of communication.
Alberto Vasquez and 8 other Binacom students from both sides of the border met and started brainstorming. They came up with this.
They think Mexico it's a partying place, so they only come here to Mexico to party, to drink, to get drunk, to get drugs. So that could be a bad thing.
A 30-minute bilingual documentary profiling 4 students from the region: Darcy from San Diego, Felix from Tijuana, Paul, who lives in San Diego and travels every day into Mexico to study, and Jaime, a student at Southwestern College who commutes from Mexico every day to attend classes.
She says, "Hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side."
When we took meetings like at City College, you could see that they had all of this equipment, and we have like the bare essentials, but it's no big difference.
We make history, and the opportunity for Mexican students and American students to see what the life of one Mexican student and the life of American student is precious, because our appreciations are different. And when you see it in a video and you see that that's life, real life, your appreciation about the border changes.
It's been 13 years now since that first Binacom meeting. Some teachers have long since retired. Some new faces have surfaced. Some in the original group remain. While technology continues to change, one thing has not: the amistad, or friendship, that each of these teachers has gained, not to mention newfound respect for one another's language and culture.
In this atmosphere of global tension that we realize that we have enormous ties in Mexico, and that we really need to keep those going, and I think that on the other side of the border they feel the same way.
Podemos hacer que el grupo crezca o se fortalezca.
I feel like we can do a lot for our students. As teachers, we can make the group stronger and bigger. In Binacom, there's people with lots of work experience, and if we take advantage of this, Binacom could grow worldwide.
I would like to see Binacom move towards more international research, more collaboration between Mexican communication researchers and American communication researchers. I would love to do some research with a partner in, say, Tijuana, looking at the local kind of Spanish language television, the local news and entertainment sort of telenovelas that are going on in Mexico.
Being part of Binacom allows me to practice my Spanish and to gain the perspectives of people from another country, another culture. You can't be neighbors and not want to know each other.
Sino se formó una familia.
We formed a family through the necessity to understand one another's culture and the interchange of each other's academic needs.
Cultura del otro, lo podemos tener a través de.
We can have this by simply communicating with each other.
Los lazos que se han dado, yo me atrevo.
I want to say we are the only ones in this region who have the quality of ties we have formed in this border region in the field of academic communication.
En el ámbito de la academia, en el campo de la comunicación.